All right, so thanks for coming out.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Really
so
excited to be here.
you are Giana Carli. I could describe you as how would you describe yourself?
Good question.
Yes.
So right now, I would like to describe myself as an LA-based actor, a fresh LA-based actor. I moved here just about 2 weeks ago, so I'm happy to be here, originally from Chicago, and my first time ever living in LA. So this is an exciting first kind of experience.
Yeah, so I guess like I'm curious to hear, because that story, the story of moving to Los Angeles is a famous one, and it's a big dream of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So for me, it's exciting to kind of catch you on the cusp of the move and kind of get where your mindset's at and what your plan of attack is, and kind of have I guess in terms of the podcast in general, like I like the idea of checking in later on and seeing like, all right, sweet, what did you try? How did it go? And then we're like, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
So
awesome. Okay, so really great question. Kind of what's my short-term plan here?
Well, actually, before we jump into that, I do want to also just let people know that the other interesting things I wanted to talk about too was your background in the private investigator sector, I'll just call it.
Yep.
Because that's cool and different. You've also spent time in places that are cool, like
China, Italy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for like
done a little bit of traveling.
Like extended time, which is cool too. So I'm always interested to hear more about those cultures and the experiences, because we've chatted before a little bit, but this is an opportunity to dive even further in, and but okay, let's get the moving stuff and all that. Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So moving to LA first, or like my job outside of acting first?
Let's do the acting first.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I honestly wasn't planning on moving here now. Kind of since I started acting, I always had an idea of, wow, it would be fun to live in LA and just kind of try out acting there, because I've always been a Chicago-based actor. I've had opportunities to come out here and film things, but never obviously lived here. Weirdly enough, all things COVID, I think, made this happen. My roommate had reached out to me over the summer, kind of right in the mix of COVID, and knew that I had an idea of LA sometime in my future. And she said, hey, sorry, I know this is kind of last minute, but my company just transferred me to the LA branch. Would you be willing to move and be my roommate? And she had an apartment lined up, and kind of everything weirdly fell into place. I had been working from home with my other job for months already, and I knew that we could do our work from anywhere, and moving to LA would kind of give me like maybe my next step in my acting career.
Yeah.
So I made the move. And now being here, since the moment that Nicole, my roommate, had reached out to me, I've really thought of like, what do I want to get out of this? Why do I want to do it? And how am I going to make that happen? Those are all really complex questions, but I've given it a lot of thought, and my main priority here is just to like continue to do what I love, which is bringing the art of comedy to real life and just giving that fun entertainment aspect of my life to people, and hopefully more people can see my work. And another thing that I loved in Chicago, and I'm even more excited about being here, is to connect with creatives. Like, I had reached out to you and was like, I just want to meet other people in the industry and create with them, whether it be something on a super small scale or a larger scale. And I know there's so much opportunity here for that. So short term, I just want to really get creating and see where it takes me.
Yeah, that's a great starting point, I feel like, for sure. I really enjoy, like I told you this before too, like I like, what's the proactiveness of the reach out is always is a plus in my book. So I'm always stoked about when people do that kind of stuff. Like I've worked with a lot of people that have just cold reach out to me, like on Instagram or otherwise. And I'm like, cool, like, I mean, that's the stuff that I do too. So I'm like, sweet, we're, I don't know, like I vibe with that.
Yeah.
Totally. I did want to ask, I guess, to get back to your move situation, how it kind of worked out. Like, what, and I guess now that you've made the move, what was your plan of attack prior to the opportunity coming up? Did you have any sort of loose timeline, or was it just like how did that play?
Yeah, so meaning if I had stayed in Chicago.
Yeah, because you had mentioned before that it was like a dream that you were considering.
Yeah.
What was your, if this hadn't come up, what would the plan be, or what was your plan prior to?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I guess it also worked out timing-wise because I feel like I had done a lot of what I could in Chicago. I mean, obviously, Chicago's like an emerging market for film and TV, and Second City is huge out there. But I've already had a couple shows at Second City. I've done a lot of the independent films in Chicago. So my next plan of action would probably be to try to get on some of the Chicago-based TV shows like Chicago Med, Chicago Fire. That's the only thing I really haven't done out there and I could have tackled. I also would have really liked to create my own sketch comedy show, or like get a group of individuals to work on sketch comedy together. I used to be part of a group and I loved it, but we all kind of went our own ways and, followed our own futures.
Sure.
But then all things COVID happened and that kind of slowed that idea down in Chicago. But the next step would be kind of getting on those Chicago-based TV shows.
All right. So that was kind of more of the only thing left to tackle was that, and then once that was accomplished, maybe you'd be like, all right, now I have no choice.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And there's always like classes that I look forward to, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this class, then this class, because it would go really good with the class I want to do after. So I kind of have like a class schedule, but that's all short-term.
Yeah.
Plan.
No, for sure. Okay. Cool.
So I'm glad I moved here, and like I said, I think weirdly enough, the timing works where things have somewhat calmed down with COVID. Who knows if we'll have another big spike? Anything could happen. But more productions are happening now. And I think it's like a really good time for like us to meet up like this. And same thing with other directors and producers I've met the past couple weeks. So that's been really nice. They kind of have a little more free time,
Yeah. How, I guess one thing I was curious about too, because I did a similar thing. I think we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah,
but when I moved out here from Reno, where I was just reconnecting with any sort of seed I had planted, or like, because up in Reno there's Lake Tahoe, so a lot of like LA-based productions would kind of go up to shoot at Tahoe, and I would PA for them or something, or whatever. So now that I was down here, I'm like, hey, remember me from whatever that one thing?
That thing
like
3 years ago.
Like, you're cool. So I did a similar thing, and I'm kind of, I mean, it's still early, and there's not enough time to have gone by to really have any, I don't know, who knows. I was just curious, what have you gotten so far out of the meetups? How's it going?
Really good.
Don't lie to me.
No, I'm so serious. Like,
no flakes
I don't know. And
yet?
what were you gonna say?
No flakes or anything yet?
No.
Okay.
Like, I feel like it's almost like, knock on wood, too good to be true. Like, it's just so cool and interesting meeting all, like, different connections that you might know over Instagram or, like, email back and forth, or maybe you were a PA briefly a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And then actually, like, getting together and having a real conversation with someone and being like, wow, this is a person behind that Instagram. How cool.
Right.
And they have so much to talk about. And this was definitely, like, something that I was missing in Chicago, too. And that could have just been on my end where I wasn't proactively reaching out and talking to directors as I could. But everyone's been really, really kind and open to talking. So last night, for example, I met with a director, producer, but he also has an international distribution company. And
hook me up.
I know, but that's so cool. And that's like one side of all things entertainment I'm really not knowledgeable on. Like, I don't know anything about it.
You're talking about the distribution side?
Yeah, okay. And I am interested in kind of like the behind the scenes of like how a film gets to where it is and money and all those things I'm curious about.
Yeah.
So we just talked about that for like an hour, and I was totally picking his brain, and he was more than happy to share like everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll discuss this later too, but he was talking about how they do a lot of back and forth with China, of course, and there's so many laws and regulations, and just their government is completely different than ours, and just like the difficulties they have, but how much he's learned over time and how he now knows how to distribute to them. And I speak Chinese, so I was extra interested in that. I was like, oh my gosh, do you ever have language barriers? And we just dove deep into that topic, and now I'm like, I need to get a couple distribution books and read up. Like, this was so fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess, let's talk about that now while we're there.
Oh, God, okay.
No, I guess just, I don't know, whatever you feel like sharing about it. But, like, I'm okay, I can, the thing that I was thinking about while you were talking was how interesting the other side of the camera is.
Yeah.
And, like, for me, I think about every aspect of film you can just dive super deep in and just hyper focus your entire talent into that one sector.
Yeah.
Of like every single aspect. It's like, sound or production design or makeup or distribution. So for me, I instantly get this like feeling of overwhelmedness of like another thing that I have to learn.
I get that too.
So when you say how I don't know when you're talking about it, I'm like, oh no, like that's just too much for me, but I want to know it, but it's kind of So all right, the latest thing that I was thinking about too was the Mulan debacle that happened. I don't know if you two touched on that at all, but how when Disney was doing the live action adaptation of their movie, they were really hoping to cater it for the Chinese market.
Yep.
And I don't know how much COVID is to blame for how poorly it went in China.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about how the best in the business who've worked with China endlessly are now trying to make a movie for China and it going so poorly.
Yeah.
So it's a weird scenario to just understand what there is there, and maybe lessons on what they did wrong or what this guy is talking about and what he's learned. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't.
No, I don't either, and those were like some of the questions I was asking him too. Like, they created Mulan, not like originally to be for China, but that was the direction of like the Chinese government said, if you're going to recreate this movie, it has to be for us, more or less. And what he was saying last night was that so many regulations are like, no film will be accepted in China if it touches on anyone going against government or anyone speaking up. And I know that Mulan itself is about a Chinese character, and it's like a very, very old story that dates all the way back to China. But she like essentially stood up against like the Chinese government. And I don't know how that could have played into any kind of distribution, but I actually did think about that while we were talking, because the main thing he said is like if anyone goes against Chinese government, if anyone touches on like any other politics or talks poorly on the country itself, like that's all shut down. And all those things are really interesting to me. But
did you have a chance to watch the?
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
I guess just to reframe the distribution stuff too, with like, my understanding was that they took the music out because for China they made a lot of changes. I don't know, like the story itself, like Mulan never really goes against the government. She's more I mean, she's trying to save the emperor, right?
Right.
Like, so but I mean I don't know.
Did you like it overall? Would you watch it again? Would you recommend it?
I guess for me the biggest thing was they changed the character a lot in ways that no longer made it enjoyable to watch in a way. Like there was no character growth or arc for Mulan, which she has a great arc in the cartoon.
Yeah.
But that's more from like a writer's perspective too, maybe. But like if when I was watching it, I'm like, this is a beautiful movie, and this is like badass. And if I was a little kid, I'd be eating this up 100% because she just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And it's like your heart kind of warms up just seeing her do the things she does, and it's super cool. So I got that out of it, and like the beginning and ending I liked a lot with the family, and the dad was super like the feels. But the whole in between bit with her growth kind of upset me, but but you know it's fine. Okay. It's fine. You still have the cartoon.
Yep.
But okay.
Interesting.
So
I'm glad that they remade it. I like all the kind of live remakes of Disney movies. And it's weird watching them now, like, as an adult, whereas I grew up with, obviously, all the cartoons, as we all did. But I enjoy how they recreate them and see the differences that they do. Yeah. Some I like more than others. Like
which one's your favorite?
The Beauty and the Beast remake. I love it.
Emma Watson.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah. I just like Emma Watson.
Yeah, I've only seen it once.
Okay.
But I did think it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I liked it. What were the other ones that were like fine? I actually didn't see Lion King. Have you?
Yeah.
What did you think
I don't know.
of that?
I'm a big fan. I don't know. I think it's just the nostalgia, but like I root for those movies to do good, and I watch them. Like some people just like hate them off the bat without even like really watching it or whatever, or they'll watch it and then they'll be like, it's not as good. But like the Lion King, I still enjoyed the musical numbers. It's still fun, and the graphics are super cool, and like I mean, there's still the weirdness. I'm sure you've probably heard about it with like the mouths.
Yep.
and the lack of like animated faces that you get in the cartoon with like actual expression. It's just more of like, It almost, you could have gone Homeward Bound with it and just had like voiceover animals talking. It would have been.
That probably could have worked, huh?
I don't know.
It's all right. As technology evolves, hopefully we'll get to where we want to be someday, and that'll all look and sound great.
Because I mean, for what it was, I dug it a lot. Yeah, I don't know. But
okay, I'll have to put it on my bucket list.
Yeah, and then I liked Aladdin too. I liked Will Smith's genie. I thought he did a good job.
Nice.
Because he had everything stacked against him in that one.
Yeah. That one, so I still haven't seen that one either.
You haven't seen any?
Well, I think back to Snow White. That was a while ago now, but...
With Kristen Stewart?
Yes. I wasn't crazy about that one. I don't know, and that was like, I watched it kind of around the time when I like rewatched Beauty and the Beast. I was like, oh my god, this is not as good as Beauty and the Beast.
Because it was early days live action remake.
Mm-hmm. So, that was like super early, but Beauty and the Beast is still my favorite. But I need to watch Aladdin because Aladdin's one of my favorite cartoon Disney movies, and I like Will Smith a lot, even though, I heard conflicting opinions on if people liked it or didn't. It
was fine. It was good. Okay. It was good. Okay. And it's different, so it's hard. You just gotta accept the fact that it's not the same movie, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Accepted now. Good to know.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about China distribution, but I don't know how much there is left to.
No.
Interesting tidbits or anything.
Right, but to go just like back to conversations that I've had, like. Yeah. It's just really nice to get people's perspectives on what they do in the industry, what they contribute to the industry, and like makes me think of things that I've never really thought of or like I don't know much about. Like you were saying, it is overwhelming, but it's really cool. Yeah. I met with another Italian-American director, and we just went on and on about all things Italian film and kind of course, had to talk about family and food as well. But that was cool because I got, like, the home feeling of, oh, my gosh, you grew up, you're talking about all the movies I watched with my dad. And I love that so much. So
So everybody has been... I mean, I'm sure, okay, because you reach out to them, and they're the ones meeting up with you, so I'm sure... I don't imagine anybody meeting up and being, like... I don't want to say not supportive, but like, kind of trying to advise you, like, go back home, this is not a good idea. Like, I don't imagine anybody saying that. They're more like rooting for you to like, all right, sweet, here's what I know, take what you can, what you can, and best of luck.
Right.
But I don't know if you got anything where they're like, be careful here, or like, I don't know if you got like any, because I imagine ideally there are people watching or listening that are looking to make the move, or so like just passing on a little bit of the advice that you've been getting as you're settling in that you found useful so far.
Yeah. So the majority of the conversations we have is kind of just like getting to know each other and what we do. Yesterday morning I had breakfast with an executive producer, and I had the chance to ask her, because she also moved here from Chicago like 20 years ago. And I said, what advice do you have for a Chicago actor transitioning to LA? And the only thing she told me, but I agree, this is a great piece of advice, is that when you get a call, when you get in front of anyone,
a call back?
like a call back, or a call from a director, a call from anyone. All she said, when you get a call, when you get in front of a director, when you're not in an audition, when you're acting, when you're acting in any capacity, all she said was, be creative. Which seems so simple, and it is really simple, but she's also like right in that you always have to remember, like, you have to stand out. People will say, okay, this person's good, but what makes you stand out from everyone else? And that's like so classic, so cliche, but she was like, don't forget it. Never forget that.
That, I feel that. And that reminds me of a moment I had.
Let's hear it.
I don't think we talked about this last time, but, or I don't know if I mentioned, okay, so my dream that I'm kind of using as a distant goal point is I think we talked about it, but is directing a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I did research early on when I first moved here on like, I don't know, what have other directors done, and how do I, like, a piece of advice that I got earlier too was like, this is the city you can meet up with people in. Like, everybody's here, so if there's somebody you want to meet, just meet them.
Yeah.
So.
Which sounds like so much easier said than done, but like, yeah, eventually meet them.
So one person I put on my list was the guy that hires the directors to direct the movies, and that guy is producer Kevin Feige, who runs the entirety of Marvel, and he's kind of like the face of the creative side and bringing on the creatives he trusts and all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, how do I talk to that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I like already know this is such a process. Buckle yourselves in, kids. Here we go.
So I was a part, or I still am. It's not been the best year because of COVID, but Film Independent is a resource that I utilize too as like a networking thing.
Yeah.
So Film Independent, I don't know if you've heard about them or they've been brought up at all, but
I haven't.
It's a yearly subscription, and they have a base down, I don't know, in LA somewhere. Not too far from my place, but they have a bunch of resources for independent filmmakers, and they have cool panels and Q&As, and during award season they're a part of, like, normally when movies are doing the awards running up to the like Oscars and stuff, they have a bunch of screenings around town.
Okay.
And they invite industry people because they're the ones that vote, and all like the SAG Awards, and the Film Independent hosts the Spirit Awards and all that kind of stuff. So everybody's trying to get their movies watched. So they just invite people and just give them free tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
So through Film Independent, I was able to go to a Black Panther screening.
Nice.
For free. I mean, I already seen it like a couple of times, but I was like, the Q&A after the movie, like the director was going to be there, Ryan Coogler. Okay. Kevin Feige was going to be there. So I'm like, all right, that's the guy I want to talk to. Ryan Coogler's cool, but Kevin Feige's going to be the one to hire me.
Yeah.
So he's there. And then they had the head costume person, the production design. They had, I think, somebody from sound maybe. There was like 7 department heads from Black Panther. My whatever. We're all there.
And you.
And then there's me. So, one piece of advice that I got that I definitely took to heart was, get there. If you want to talk to somebody, get there early.
Yep.
When they're on a panel, find them on a panel. Get there early, sit in the front row so they can kind of like see your face or whatever. So and then once the floodgates open up,
you are the first one to go.
So I was like getting nervous the whole time, and
oh, you look. It's okay. It's done now. It's okay.
And I'm just thinking, all right, I'm here. This is my chance to talk to him and ask him the big question.
Yeah.
The only question I had for him is like, what do I have to do, or like, what do I have to do for you to bring me on as a director or whatever, straight up.
Great, good. And, I love it, to the point.
Yeah. So I bolt up, and this actor swoops in front of me, and
I'm sorry. Were you sitting in the front row like me?
He was like right next to me, so we're both racing. But he did a thing that I probably would recommend not to do.
Oh.
And he handed him something. I think it was like a thumb drive or like even like a CD or something kind of old school like that, where it's like, here's my actor's reel, like just take a look at it. And I'm like,
okay, continue on.
So no, do you have a thought on that?
Well, just like you have to be mindful of, he probably doesn't have like a bag of things to put all the actors' thumb drives in, and it's just like carrying it around. Like maybe he doesn't even have pockets. Maybe his suit is too nice to have like all the, and he.
Yeah. So I mean, the moral there is, likely the situation is he's going to either like toss it right after, or he'll keep it and never watch it, or whatever.
Yeah, sure. You never know. Maybe he will watch it.
Maybe he will.
Who knows? Sure.
But there's probably... Okay, yeah. So my mentality was get my face in front of him, have the interaction, ask the question.
Yeah.
But not... Yeah, whatever. Like, keep it simple.
Sure.
And then I was like... I think I think... Because he was trying to get away, right? Because
he wants to leave.
And... I think I like touched his shoulder or something. I kind of like say, hey, like before he turns away from the actor, I'm like, hey, like a quick question. I asked my question.
Good job.
I think I said, I was like, hey, Kevin. And I was like, oh, sorry, Mr. Feige. Oh. Sorry. So I had like a nice little awkward moment there. Unscripted, unplanned.
Little improv to start off the conversation.
But I was a little bit too casual with him, I felt. But I asked the question. And he looked me in the eye, and he said something similar to what your person said, where he's like, I have the quote somewhere, but it's simple on like, just make something cool.
Yeah, it's like, why is it so simple? It's not that simple. Be creative, that's all you got?
It was either make cool stuff or make something cool. And then I kind of just stared at him blank. I'm like, wait, is that it? So I kind of gave him like a I don't know, for those that aren't watching the video, like kind of like probably like a micro expression squint to him.
Yeah,
like,
okay, like,
So then he went a step further and explained, like, it could be, like, he's like, it could be anything, just, you know, a TV show, I don't know, a short film, feature film. Just make it just, just something.
Cool.
So kind of like what you said is like, stand out, be something worth bringing on and worth wanting, and something unique enough that could add to the diversity that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. But he kept it super simple, like, just make something cool.
Yeah, like...
And I'm like...
Dude.
No pressure.
Really?
I'm like, but what are you looking for? Do you want...
Okay, so good start, Kev. What about...
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was nice and, like, awesome that you got to meet him, actually. Like, you had that on your bucket list. You're like, I'm going to do it, and then you took the steps you needed to and finally did it.
Yeah, on the many steps to accomplishing a goal, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't just expect Kevin Feige to knock on your door when you haven't made anything cool yet.
It's true. That's true. You did not listen to his recommendation.
So I like the idea. I guess, like, just one thing that I think about, too, is, like, future Eddie. Once he has another chance to interact and get in a room with Kevin Feige, or see him again at a panel and be like, hey, I met you, I talked to you the first time at Black Panther thing. This is our exchange. You told me this, and by the way, I followed that to heart, and I made this and this.
Love it.
And then, like, have, like, the little follow-up over the years, and, you know, by... I don't know, 2025, I'll be working on...
You'll be on the next Marvel movie.
Squirrel Girl or whatever.
There you go. There you go. So, it'll happen for you. So I know it. I feel it.
All right.
I'm proud of you, though, for, like, actually getting yourself there. And
it's scary.
It is very scary. And that piece of advice, I love how you, like, wrote it down. You're like, I have a quote somewhere over here. I'll find it later.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram somewhere, one of my stories.
Okay.
But I definitely noted it because I'm like, I should have it somewhere. I feel like I should just make a whole placard of, like, just make something cool Kevin Feige quote to just look at every day and be like, yes, that's it.
I will, and eventually.
Every day.
Thanks, Kev.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. So do you have any ideals for, like, a little Eddie Marvel movie or something of that nature?
An Eddie Marvel movie?
Or, you know, a cool version of a movie you would like to create that you would one day possibly give to him.
I guess that's probably the thing I'm missing, actually.
That's something cool.
I guess right now what I'm focusing on is my voice as a filmmaker and as a director.
Okay.
Because I feel like I want, it's too general, and I feel like I really need to potentially hyper-focus this, but like, I feel like the way that Marvel works is they find a director with a voice. Like, they're the ones who do the work on matching the director with the hero in a way. To where, like, I don't know. So all I'm trying to do right now is make sure that I know who I am and what I bring to the table, and then how to bring that to a character. Because I think about Taika Waititi and what he did for Thor. I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok was his breakout as a director, and he'd done a lot of indie stuff before that.
Yeah.
And he carried his voiceover from his indie projects into the Thor movie. Okay. And I'm kind of curious on how that played out. Like, was Taika already a fan of Thor, or did they reach him out and say, "Hey, here's Thor. We need we're looking for directors to really shake this up and change things, and you have a voice. Yeah. What do you see for this character?" And then Taika pitches something and researches Thor and figures that stuff. Like, I don't know how the process works. So
sounds like maybe you reach out to Taika next. What do we think? What do we think?
That's a good idea. I should have him on the podcast.
Should have him on the podcast. That'd be a great idea.
Yeah. So those are, I definitely have my list. But yeah, that's kind of how I assume they work, where it's like, all right, we've got these movies on the docket to shoot in the next 8 years. Yeah. And because they plan way down the line, so I don't know. I guess I don't know if I answered your question, but that's
no. I mean, you're still working to get that cool part, and there's multiple moving parts to find your cool production to one day give to him. So I get it. It's not easy at all.
Because I guess
long process.
The one thing I've noticed on that too, to carry that forward a little bit, is the one piece of advice that I was getting early on too when I would tell certain groups, because I got into networking events where you kind of stand up and you're like, "Hey, I'm Eddie. This is my dream." Does anybody have any thoughts or advice on what I can do? And then the head guy is like, "Yeah, like if that's what you want to do, then make like superhero stuff and show them you can make superhero stuff." But I'm like, the other directors are bringing on didn't do any superhero stuff. They did, like Ryan Coogler did, Ryan Coogler directed Creed. Prior to Black Panther. Yeah. And to me, if I was Kevin Feige, that demonstrates this guy could add to a universe that's already pre-existing, work with characters, and an actor that created the universe was Sylvester Stallone. And he directed Sylvester Stallone. He added to the universe. He played within the box and made everybody happy and made an awesome movie. Yeah. So that's kind of like a similar thing to what like Marvel asked for, is come in, add to the universe, work in our sandbox. So he demonstrated that with Creed. So I kind of look at more things like that, where it's like, show people you can handle the collaborative process of the story is bigger than just you, and there's more layers than just, I don't know, whatever.
No, I mean, I think you have the right mindset exactly. Like, you've clearly done your research, and no, like, that really does show, and that's important. You've done your research, but another thing, too, follow our mottos of make something cool and be creative. Sure. Why couldn't you do, like something superhero movie, like the head honcho of that place, like
Kevin Feige?
Not Kevin Feige. The networking.
Right.
The networking meetup that you went to, where they said, make a superhero movie. Why can't you make a superhero movie, but one that, like, is not the typical superhero movie? That's so out of the box and is, like, in another completely...
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. You could incorporate the two, being like, oh, okay, so Eddie is directly reaching for a superhero movie, but there's also this other aspect that no one was expecting. The world's made of cheese.
That's
and
definitely
superheroes trying to get all the rats
right.
away.
Right.
I
don't know. Right. No, I mean that's an idea.
And this is just me throwing stuff out there, so
no.
don't listen to me.
No, for sure. It's definitely a thought that I've had too, but like, I just think about it's the age of superheroes right now too, and especially in TV, like Netflix has like the Umbrella Academy,
right?
Amazon Prime has The Boys,
right?
MCU and DC are just making 80 movies a year.
Yep.
DC has all their shows, and Marvel's coming out with Disney Plus. So
it's true.
I'm just like,
it's a lot of that being done.
So I've got ideas, but potentially, I mean, there's what's the word when it's not auxiliary, whatever. There, you have the word for it.
No.
It's kind of circling that genre, but not necessarily directly it.
Okay.
So it's close, an easy hop and skip away from Kevin's call.
Love it.
Mr. Feige.
Love it. Well, I have ultimate faith in you, and I know that you'll make it happen at some point.
We'll see what happens. I mean, it's very exciting.
You'll do it.
Okay.
For sure.
I believe you. All right. So let's talk about hard transition, bad segue, no segue.
Segue on to the next topic.
Let's talk about, because I know you private investigating. Let's talk about that a little bit, because
Sure.
You were a little bit hesitant to dive into, because it's, I get it. When we talk about our own jobs, a lot of people, it's like, it's kind of not that interesting. But I do want to, I have a couple questions on it. But if you could just kind of recap specifically or generally what you do.
Yeah.
To give us a foundation.
So, thank you. So I will start back my college days. I did not go to school for anything acting or film, and I studied international relations and languages. So after college, I knew I wanted to incorporate my languages in some capacity of my job, and the company I currently work for, they're an investigations firm, and they were looking for Chinese and Spanish speakers. So I was like, how ideal.
So you speak which languages?
I speak Mandarin, Chinese, Spanish, and Italian, and a little bit of English. Still working on that. So I applied to the job, I got it, and now I do the investigations for the company that are not so exciting in the fact that I'm not like physically going out and watching people or taking notes on anyone in person or any company in person, but I do all the behind the scenes research of that. So I'll basically be on my computer all day just kind of researching full background of an individual or background of corporate entities too. We do the corporate side of investigations, and we're not part of the government, but we have previous FBI and CIA members who now work for us, so sometimes we contract with them. But mainly we just do corporate investigations. And the nice thing about it is that I can work from anywhere because I'm just on my laptop, and I kind of can be flexible with my hours too, which is great for wanting to start something new, like doing film. Right.
Flexibility is good.
Yeah, definitely. And while it is still interesting, and I do have really cool days, I've learned that I want to take my career more to acting.
So in a way, it feels. So are you trying to say, not to put words in your mouth?
Sure.
But sure. That you actively are choosing not to see it as exciting, just to kind of push down the urge to, because you still want to put your energy elsewhere. So, that kind of tactic.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, I do really still have a passion for languages, and I love using my languages whenever I can. Love to bring that into film sometime, but it's funny because I started working for this job before I started anything acting, and I mentioned the story to you, but I kind of like fell into this this profession now, and since I fell into it, my heart and my passion, what I want to spend my majority of my time doing, is on acting and film, kind of leaving the investigations behind, which is sad because it's still very interesting work, but I just have a passion elsewhere at the moment.
Yeah. So I guess one thing I wanted to see if you had any, I don't know if I call it advice, but like when I think about you doing individual, I don't know how you investigate people. I don't know what that looks like.
I could give you the quick analysis of what we do.
As far as like an individual, to see. I'm just curious on if you doing your job has affected how you live your own life, because you know what's possible on the other end of knowing.
So I definitely see a little bit of overlap there, but the general process of looking into a person, we have a lot of databases that provide a lot of the information we need, and they're usually like U.S. public records. So you get someone's name, sometimes a date of birth, sometimes an address, any other PII, personally identifiable information you call it, and you put this individual's information into a database. This database will generate every single address ever attached with that individual, every phone number, every email address, every social security number they've ever had. If anyone else has used that social security number, will generate relatives associated with the individual, and then you can look into the relative's background as well. And then on top of that, it'll also give you like preliminary criminal or civil records. So that's the start of your research.
Step one, you get all that information.
That's the start. You just type a name in and all that pops up. But the analysis on the human interaction side is taking all that beginning stuff and popping it in elsewhere. So public records do not give you official criminal or civil records. Those each have a database, and that is searched by county throughout the United States. And to search an individual through counties, some of them are free searches online where you can look up anyone's records, or some of them are paid. You can still look them up. You just have to pay for it. Others require a court runner, which is a physical person going down to the court and requesting documents. That's like the criminal civil history side of it. And then there's bankruptcies, judgments, and liens, and other databases that kind of show that. That's all the nitty-gritty stuff. Then you do the open source research where it gets creative. And that can be anything from, seeing if there's a derogatory article about Eddie out there that said he is the worst director in the world. Then you read into that. You read into how official that source is. Is it reliable? And that's just the creative aspects of it. Every single individual you search is different from everyone else, so you're going to have different avenues you have to follow and go from there. And social media is... Don't post bad stuff on social media, everyone. It's never deleted, even when you think it is. You can always find it. That's the piece of advice that I think everyone can take away, and like I've learned for myself too. Like, try to limit my social media, even though I'm an actor and I want to have a public Instagram profile so people can find me if they want to. That's the difficulty of me being smart, but also wanting to
all right, so when you say don't post bad stuff, you want to elaborate on what the bad stuff could be?
I mean, kind of like what you would expect. Let's say you're in a job interview and the manager looks at your social media and you're binge drinking alcohol during the week and you post a picture of it. Not great. We'll like go all the way back to before you were 21 and we'll see that you were possibly illegally drinking. Not great. Other things, and this is just more for like security, not necessarily derogatory information, but I will never do this. I'll never like post on Facebook, Giana Carli is at the Wyndham Hotels. Like, I'll never post like the address like that I'm currently at.
It's kind of like, I mean, that's a common feature that they promote. Is
a lot of people do that. Like, you just checked in somewhere. And that's too, like, if you're leaving your home for a week and you're going on vacation, your neighbors next door know that you're probably not going to be at the house if you're on vacation, so that's not great for security purposes there. And then one thing, too, is, like, politics. That's a huge discussion in itself. Most times, everyone has freedom of speech, so you can say whatever you like, but to an extent when you're, like, putting down another group of people or something of that nature, and that gets a little into the weeds. But
so politics, interesting.
Yeah, and we usually like don't flag anything politics because obviously everyone has their own opinion, and it's encouraged for people to share their opinions. But what we do look for is like putting down, like I said, another group of people or calling out. It really depends. It really, really depends. But most times, of course, say how you feel. Just don't be mean.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that sounds like just standard good advice. But But it is nice to know that they're. I guess the moral of the story is that it could come back to bite you later down the road. Even if it doesn't do it right now, because we don't know what people are gonna be curious of. Like, there's whatever. That's a weird thing.
Right, and I think that's even come up in the media recently too. Of like, things people post 8, 10, 12 years ago.
Are we talking cancel culture? Is that what you're referring to?
We don't have to discuss cancel culture. But I mean, it's like a thing, that you posted a long time ago, and then it comes back and it kind of bites you. That's my job to find that stuff, and I don't love that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. So.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because we're recording this at my apartment, and when I was like, oh, yeah, I'll send you my address. I'm like, she probably got my address.
No, it's perfect. I already did a full background check on Eddie, and he's a great guy, everyone.
I'm clear.
He's clear.
But yeah, I was like, wait.
Is this okay?
I'm like, my number's on my website. I'm like, I don't have to send it or whatever.
Eddie, I hate to tell you, but if I wanted your address, I could have looked it up anyways. It's my job.
It's very interesting.
So that's work side of things. Very cool to use my Chinese. So where my Chinese comes in is doing research on any Chinese individuals or corporations. So the whole other side of the job is on entities, which is a little more, I don't want to use the word boring, but a little less exciting sometimes. Sometimes a little more exciting because there's cool red flags and you learn a lot about financials that you never thought you'd know. And I learn a lot of things too with some of the investigations I work on. Like, I did an investigation on Bitcoin in China, and China recently, a couple years ago now, banned Bitcoin currency exchange. So I had looked into a company that was allegedly selling Bitcoin illegally or selling any coins illegally. So that was cool, and I had to teach myself all things Bitcoin because I knew nothing at the time.
Yeah, I know nothing about Bitcoin.
It's really complicated. I know a little bit now, but...
You haven't jumped in and become a Bitcoin miner or anything
Oh my God, no, I'm going to stay, extremely far away. If you do it, power to you. I hope you make some money, but it's still so complex and, unreliable, in my opinion. But some people have made good income, so.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I learned some things, too, like that, but I could kind of talk about my transition to acting if you don't mind, unless you have something else to ask.
I was just going to ask, have you ever thought about, I don't even know if this would be legal for you to do.
Sure.
I'm sure it probably is.
Let's hear it.
No, just becoming having blog post or journal and it's hey, this is what I learned about Bitcoin, and then you just kind of take all that research and have it as some sort of form. I don't know. It feels like the stuff that you learn, even if especially the red flag stuff, I feel isn't stuff you could be. Oh, I found out this one company, and you just put that out there.
Yeah.
And start Twitter wars and stuff.
Fortunately, that's not legal. I'm not allowed to talk about my cases unless that Bitcoin example, I could discuss it a little bit more in depth because it was litigation support. So I was doing an investigation on behalf of a law firm that was fighting the case in court. Since that case has closed, it's open knowledge and anyone can look it up and even find my report online.
So as long as it's public.
Yes. So as long as it's public knowledge, I can discuss.
So you can't do any breaking stories yourself as a reporter and
breaking story.
Investigative journalist.
Unfortunately, no.
All right, cool.
I guess I could discuss if I wanted to do blog posts, like you said,
Anonymous.
Procedures I use and cool tools that are open to anyone that people don't recognize. There's a lot of reverse phone number searches that are open online, and let's say a random phone number texts you. You can easily plug a phone number in and find the person's name, possibly their address, a lot of personal information. So things like that are open and people don't know about are cool resources to have.
Yeah, I guess before we jump into your transition.
Sure, no, you take your time. I'll be here all day.
I'm excited. I'm curious to hear about. I understand. Okay, I don't know what one does with that information anyway. So I'm curious on that side of things because I feel like that's an opinion that is talked about a lot these days with Facebook's taking all the information, Google's taking all the information. Your information's everywhere already anyway. The phones are listening to you, all that kind of stuff. So it's all out there, and people are like, well, I have nothing interesting going on, so sure, go for it. But I am curious, what in today's day and age, it feels like knowing an address, I don't know how beneficial or what could, I don't know what people do with information. Or
why do you need someone's previous address?
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What's the,
Good question. So
I feel like I should be afraid, but I don't know why.
Fair. And it totally depends. We do investigations and we do due diligence. So the difference between those two is that due diligence is conducted before you work with someone, essentially, to make sure nothing bad happens. An investigation does not have to occur. Due diligence is what you should do before to prevent an investigation from happening. So with previous addresses, there's not a lot of times where they're really important, but sometimes they are, especially if let's say you are looking up an asset search. You want to know how much money a person is worth. you'll do that from all the previous homes that they've lived in, all the previous cars that they've had. You can get license plates from every car a person's ever owned or even leased or rented or etc. You can get all that information and then essentially be able to find out how much money someone is worth. Or if you're in a lawsuit, that information can be really helpful. And we've done asset searches for that particular reason. So it's like, I don't have the money. I've never had the money. They make a claim, and we can rebut it. So that's what addresses are important with. Another thing that we use addresses for every piece of research we do, an address gives you a city and a county a person's associated with. Let's take Eddie, for example. He mentioned that he's from Reno. Reno is in what county in Nevada? Washoe? Yeah, Washoe County, Nevada. And he's now also living in Los Angeles, which is Los Angeles County, Nevada. Those are two separate... California, thank you. Those are two separate counties and two separate states, Giana. And since I knew you were from Reno, that's like a previous address I have for you. I know that I'm going to search your criminal and civil records in Reno and find all that information. If you told me you were from Ohio, I would know that I'd have to search records in Ohio to find any information on you there. So that's what an address provides you, is like a locale to search and dig deeper. And you can even do like a Google search of Eddie and make it specific to Reno, Nevada. And that's a whole other search in itself, and it pulls out everything you've done in Nevada. So
I guess the benefit with
addresses are very important.
Yeah. I was gonna say the other interesting thing about me when you try to search me is I'm the fifth.
We don't have to.
So it's kind of like it's all tricky with the 4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you? I don't know if you've talked about this before, but can you, like, who is 4, 3, 2, 1? Who are this? Like your dad, grandpa?
Yeah, so my dad's number 4, my grandpa's number 3.
I love that you're the 5th.
And I'm the 5th, yeah.
Do you know number 2? Have you met number 2?
Yeah, he's still around.
Still around?
Yeah.
Have you met number 1?
No, that would be too far.
That would be really, really far.
Yeah, no, number Junior is still kicking around in Albuquerque. So if you want to look up my history there.
Junior in Albuquerque. Noted for later.
Yeah, we have. It's kind of cool. There's been some family reunions where you have the 4 of the 5 Eddies that are existing together. So that's cool. But
that's nice.
I had one other thought.
Yeah.
And I forgot what it was because you distracted me with the Eddie thing. Because I love talking about the 5th.
That is really cool. Like, you have so much family background there.
Yeah. Yes.
Who's the best Eddie?
Well, the youngest is always the best.
Oh, okay. It's a hot take, Eddie. I don't know.
We're all twins. We're all twins, just different ages.
That's nice.
You were talking about. Man,
I can say one more thing too about the addresses.
Sure, I try to remember.
Yeah, try to get that thought back. One more cool thing is like.
Well, I remember now.
Okay, I'll say it really quick. When you like Google someone's name and addresses come up from strange databases you find on Google. All that information could be removed, and we have a removal site for that. So a lot of millionaires and billionaires will come to us saying, research everything you can on me and delete it all. And then you delete everyone's address history.
Does it take that much money?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of money to do that. But it's beneficial to people who own large, expensive properties and have a lot of assets and don't want that stuff being touched. Yeah. So there's a way to remove it, but it takes a long, expensive time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess, is the only experience I have with dealing with people's information was when I was in Reno still, transitioning into the freelance life.
Okay.
I was doing a part-time job at a collection agency.
Okay. Cool.
So I got to, handle people's socials and previous addresses and be like, all right, hey, I'd be on the phone and be like, because it was always a weird procedures on like verifying I was talking to the right person first.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, like you owe money on your DirecTV bill. This is how much. I'm like, I never had DirecTV. And I'm like, well, what address do you live at? Or they're like, I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm like, all right, I'll tell you what I have here. Like, is this a street? And it's like, yeah, I live at that street. I'm like, all right, well, that's the street that I'm showing from these dates. And then like, I never had DirecTV.
Oh. Sir, just pay the bill.
So I'm like, so it's kind of interesting, even when you do have it, how the lengths people will go to say either they don't live there or I don't know, all that kind of stuff. So that's the experience I have with dealing with previous addresses, and because we have to like know where to mail the letters to and all that kind of stuff, because it's like, we have 10 addresses for you here, and I'm like, I don't know where these addresses came from, but yeah,
that makes sense. And I assume that whatever generator you had for those addresses, a lot of times it takes them at least a few months to update. So if someone moved from an address, it's going to take a few months for that address to put an end date, and then it'll take a few more months for the new address to pop up. So we've had those situations too, similar to that.
Yeah.
Fun work, huh?
Fun work. It stresses me out. I'm all stressed over here now.
Don't be stressed. It's okay. Like I said, Eddie's a really good guy. No criminal.
Well, I mean, I'm not stressed about myself, because I know there's nothing to hide. But it's just interesting that those tools are out there.
Yeah.
And that there's ways around them, and that there's ways to work within them. And I guess the moral of the story to me that I'm getting from it is just, if you're just a perfect person,
you'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
Everything. Just don't be a bad person. Period.
Yeah, just social media, handle it perfectly.
Yeah.
Understand where society is going and know how to handle the future before it happens. Like, it's all that kind of stuff. It's very...
It's a lot. Just like, be aware of what you post. And see, but I also say I'm not the best investigator, because I have a TikTok, and TikTok's under some heat, or has been under some heat, but I just really like it. It's so fun. Have you ever watched
I'm not
TikToks?
a big fan of TikTok at all.
Oh my God, Eddie.
Because it's just, okay.
Eddie's
I'm not a fan.
view.
I'm not a fan of the TikTok humor.
Okay.
That it encourages on the platform. It reminds me of Vine, which I never watched any Vines. Never really got into it. But regardless, I'm not a fan of the I don't know. It's like the short form, quick,
super quick, snappy,
loud kind of humor. It's not my humor.
Okay. I get that. Do you guys check out my TikTok on the other hand?
But check out
I am the extremely loud humor that Eddie is talking about.
I watched your I think you posted one to your Instagram. Yeah, I watched that one.
Loud humor.
Yeah, it's
Italian.
As let's say, as a director, I was able to watch elements. Like I can pull elements of who one is and what one brings through what they create. So I take that from it. But
it's an interesting
I watch it differently.
Feed. Yeah, I like that. And that's like so strange, because I almost like don't associate my TikToks with like how I act as an actor, and
it's different.
It's so different, because you don't like act on TikTok, like you don't. I don't know. It's so different.
It is acting.
And it is, but in like such a different way. Like I'm almost reenacting stories, and this is on my personal account. Like I'm reenacting stories of my family, and that's where I get a lot of my inspirations from. So I dress up and I have fun with it. That's for sure.
So do you have, I don't know how TikTok works, but do you have a handle that you can plug right now while people are interested?
Same handle as my Instagram, just at Giana Carli.
Carli with an I?
With an I.
All right, cool.
Which is Italian. I know we previously discussed that some people are confused that the name Carli is like my middle name because it sounds like an average girl's first name even.
A lot of people on social media will think they're hiding by...
Which they haven't. That's such a funny joke.
By either like shortening the last name or putting a different name there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear it doesn't work because it makes me feel good.
Yeah, no, Eddie, you're good. Do not worry.
I know, I'm not hiding my name. My full name's up.
Yep.
Life is easy as a dude, though, too. Like, I don't have to worry about as many things. So
yeah.
That's what I kind of credit it to. That's how I put it. Is like
I could see
nobody's looking for me.
I don't know that. Kevin, if you're out there, you should look for him.
Don't look for me. We're encouraging that too much on this episode.
Okay, sorry. Transition.
So TikTok, how recent did you jump into that? Because you want to talk about your transition into the acting world that you stumbled into.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
How do the kids get into it? So TikTok is a recent thing for me. It was during COVID, kind of.
I thought you were going to talk about the history of TikTok for a second.
Oh, absolutely.
TikTok started back in
1997. No, I do not know the full history of TikTok. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in that field. But I did start my account while I think like many people, especially in like my age range, started TikTok was during
like last month.
COVID. Yeah. I like downloaded the app in March and was, scrolling, and then I was like, oh my god, I could make so much better content than all these. And then I ended up posting on my own. But prior to that, how I kind of got into acting itself was I went to a show, a Second City show in Chicago, with my roommate at the time. She was like, Giana, my sister's friend is going to be in a show. Let's go and
support.
Have fun. Yeah. So sure. So I went with her to the show, and we had a couple drinks, having a good time. And
pivotal information.
Just, little details for the story. And then I get up and I'm waiting in line for the bathroom, and a man walks out of the room next to us and says, hi, are you so-and-so here for the audition?
Wait, did you say he walks out of the bathroom?
Walks out of a room, a room next to us, not the bathroom. And I respond and I say, no, I'm just waiting in line for the bathroom. But, I kind of peeped into the room he came from, and I offered to read any lines if he needed an extra voice, and he said, sure. So I went into the audition room, I read for someone else's line, and I read through, and I got the role. So,
congrats.
Thank you.
So just to clarify on reading, actually one quick thing, I was going to move your sweater off the mic, just in case. But all right, so when you were saying reading for a character, I initially thought you were talking about, no, that one's fine. All right.
Okay, thank you.
I was initially thinking, you were like, hey, if you need somebody to read opposite people who are auditioning.
That was what I did, yeah.
Okay.
I read opposite someone.
And then so you read opposite someone as they were on the camera, and then you got the role from that table.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Because then I was also thinking, oh, no, she's not talking about that. She meant reading for a part.
Ah.
So just to clarify, you went in to read opposite somebody who was auditioning. They liked the way you read.
Yeah.
And then this is the one. Sweet.
So I was basically just a reader, but
that's good.
Not knowing that, I just went full out and was like, how come? I don't even remember the scene itself, but
Because I feel like that's I'm horrible at the cold read scenario where you're just reading off a sheet. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to imagine myself in the same position where, because I have to read on occasion on set just to get a director. As a script supervisor, I'm the guy with the script. So I'm like, actually the character says this. I have to like kind of read it for the actor, read it for the director to get everybody on the same page.
Sure.
And I feel like I butcher it every time. I'm just like, I actively avoid adding animation to my read just because I don't want the actor to feel like I'm trying to
play off you. Yeah, of course. But I understand that, like, your confusion and almost like overwhelming feeling because you have another job outside of that. Like your head is probably at so many different spaces about the production that day that you're just like trying to get the lines out, but you're still thinking of other things. So that makes sense. When you're in an audition, though, it's like everything is focused on the lines and the performance.
And even then, I can't read it right. So that's
It's all right.
That's
why he's in directing, everyone.
That's why. Exactly. Correct.
Makes sense. Love that. So my first show was at Second City in Chicago, and that's how I met a lot of people and was like, whoa, this is really, really fun.
How long did the show go? What was the process with that? Yeah.
So we had rehearsals from April through June, and then a full month of shows in July. So it was probably like a 4-month process total.
And then how much rehearsal time was that?
We rehearsed 2 to 3 times a week, and it wasn't sketch comedy. It was just a full comedy show. And rehearsals lasted about 2 to 3 hours each time, totally depended on the day. And obviously you were called if your character was in the scenes.
So how was no.
I just thought of a very quick story.
Sure.
So to kind of give my whole thought process of when I first started acting, this very first show. I'm like so excited I got this role. I've never acted in my entire life. And I go to my first rehearsal and I know nothing, mind you. And everyone is there and the director says, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block Giana's scenes. And I was like, why? What did I do wrong? Why are you blocking my scenes out of the script? And everyone laughed and was like, oh my God, she's really new at this. I slowly learned that that meaning is different than what I had thought.
So what does blocking mean for those at home?
Yeah, so blocking is basically, in simple terms, just like where you stand and what the movements are of each scene. So you start off at your one spot, and you start off on the left-hand corner of the room, and then you slowly work your way to the right and to the back. That's an example of blocking the movement of the scene.
Yeah, the movement of the scene.
Yeah.
First position.
Yeah.
Second mark.
Yeah, so not like, let's take your whole scene out of the show.
It's adorable.
Thank you.
No, it's an interesting thing because I'm sure you've probably experienced this before, but like, there are moments when people, directors don't know what blocking means.
Oh my gosh.
I have, because, okay, as a script supervisor, I get to work with directors a lot, and a lot of first-time directors.
Yeah.
And I talked about this on a previous episode with Avid, but directing is kind of like it's a thing you don't really know. You don't really necessarily know how much you don't know, and it's a weird position to be in because you have to understand like almost everybody's position around you and how to communicate with them and what's going on. And the AD is pushing for time, so it's like, yo, director, let's block this scene so that everybody can light it. And then the director's like, all right, let's get in there and let's like start directing everybody. It's like talking emotion with you, and all right, so we're gonna start over here, and like here's your emotional state, and then explaining everything. It's like no. Stop what you're doing. We just need to know where they start, where they're going to stand, so we can just move on. But it's kind of difficult to interrupt. You don't want to interrupt a director in front of everybody and be like, this is not blocking. Like, we're kind of...
So can we actually do a blocking?
And then the actor's like, oh, this is just a blocking. And then the director's talking to you the whole time about emotion. It's like, no, I get the emotion. Or like, we'll talk about that. Whatever. Like, where you're...
Yeah.
So blocking is actually, that's a good thing to bring up, is it's the simplicity of just literally where they have to light the scene. In film specifically. I don't know how, it's probably similar in like what that was.
Definitely similar in a show. I mean, the blocking's important for the lighting at, wherever the lighting is, on stage, off stage. And it should be, I think, like, one of the first things you talk about before you film a scene is, what is the movement of this? What are we trying to achieve? And where's the frame? And all that is very important.
Because we talked about this a little bit before, but like you mentioned you didn't go to school for acting. And I didn't go to any sort of film school either. But there are elements that are universal that you kind of learn. Like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like I think about, it has nothing to do with your acting career, but just to vent about the blocking thing. The process with setting up for a scene is you block it. Ideally, you get the actors in there to just show them, all right, here's a space. Here's kind of the vibe I'm feeling. This is where I think it's going to play out, and then we'll kind of play with it from there. Everybody kind of comes around in a COVID-safe way to observe that little movement, and then actors go away. Lighting and the grips and the gaffers handle the set and light for what they just saw. While the director and the AD and the script supervisor all talk about, like, all right, well, how are we shooting this?
Logistics, exactly.
And what are all the angles? And then you go in when it's lit, and then you probably do like a rehearsal, maybe a camera rehearsal if there's movement with the camera, and then you shoot it. But
that's how it should be. This is the correct way, the like book description of how it's done.
So the thing that gets people a little bit scared initially, especially when they're newer in the director chair or otherwise, is the amount of time that process takes that you're not shooting. So then directors will be like, they'll insist on just showing the DP, like, this is what I imagine. This is they'll go here, they'll go here, they'll go here. And just light for that. And then the actors come in, they have whole other ideas, and then we have to relight everything, and then it's just kind of crazy. And then you shoot the rehearsal as the actors have never even rehearsed it yet, and then you're shooting the rehearsal before you've blocked it, and it's kind of a messy situation. So you save time by doing it the right way. Not to talk down on my filmmaker friends, but hopefully they agree with me.
I agree with how that's done, but I'm obviously like an actor perspective, and it's interesting to hear your perspective as a script supervisor, but also as a director, because I feel like the script supervising process has given you like the detail-oriented mindset that you need to have as a director that maybe some directors kind of lack because they're so onto the creative side, but at least you have you're aware of time and you're aware of how things should be done and efficiently, I guess. So it's really cool that you have both sides of that.
That's kind of why it's encouraged for directors to get experience in other positions, so it's a tough ask because directors don't want to AD a project, and directors don't want to script supervise. Most commonly, it's like, no, I want to handle the creative and play with the actors and all that stuff. But and
it's like a good point too to bring up like we've kind of discussed difficult experiences we've had, things that we've learned from sets, and it's so true. Like every single set I've worked on has been different in how they set up, how long it takes, and like some, directors or just crews that are new in general. Like I remember when I first started acting, I did a lot of student films, and those you can expect are going to take a little more time for them to get set up, and can maybe even be a lot of more tension or pressure on set because they're trying to do it perfect for their class and whatnot. But it's cool to kind of take that in and be like, this is a good experience for me to know that sometimes it takes a little extra time and you just have to wait and just be ready when you're called.
Let's talk about those early experiences of yours, because you mentioned Second City. That show was a stage performance.
Yes.
Versus, I don't know what your first on-screen performance was like, and how, again, there's probably new lingo you're dealing with and new procedures you're going through that are different from what you just came from. And you're like, wait, what's that?
What's going on?
Or, wait, I know what that is. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure it could go both ways. And, what do you have any specific stories from the early sets?
Yeah, so the first film, TV production I did was student-based, and was a web series.
A student web series. Okay.
There were 5 episodes, so it was pretty long, actually. But for any new actors, and I'm sure this is already common knowledge, student films are the best to work on for when you're first starting out, because there's definitely less pressure on the actor in those environments, and since everything takes more time, it's really nice for you to observe what's going on and take it all in, because it's a lot to process, there's a lot of people on the crew, and what do all these people do, and how should an actor act on camera and off camera in these situations. I mean, you have to be professional at all times, even though you're working with sometimes 19, 20-year-olds. It's a cool environment to be on, and what I loved the most of that was, I remember this one specific, just interaction in general. The director I worked with was actually really, really good, and you could tell he was super passionate about directing and wanting to do film forever. But he knew that I was a newer actor, and he was like, I love this challenge. This is great. I'm really going to work with you, and we'll make this web series awesome together. So it was less pressure on me, because I felt like he was really helping me along the way and giving me that attention, and that's what newer actors, I think, need or can benefit from, so that as I continued to do some of those student films, I was ready for more independent film and commercials and whatnot, which commercials are very separate from everything else, but at least it teaches you professionalism and the basics of filming a production. So yeah, they're really cool first experiences, and student films are great too.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. One thing I think about when I observe actors in those situations is it's always a mixed bag and you mentioned attention to the actor, because it does depend. I mean, that's the fun part about directing too, is you have to be specific on how you communicate with each actor, because everybody has their own process, and some people work better in different scenarios. And it is interesting to see how directors handle how much, this director sounded like they handled that experience well. Where it's all right, sweet, because you mentioned it was a student project, so probably hey, I'm new at this, but I'm stoked about this.
Yeah.
And I know that
I'm new at this also.
So let's acknowledge that and go from there. And I see you. that kind of thing. 'Cause, and then as you kind of mentioned, like as you go, sometimes you don't need as much attention, but there are moments when you still need to be seen.
100%, yeah.
At some point where it's like, wait, we're about to shoot and you haven't told me what we're doing yet. Do you not know that? I'm like waving at you over here.
Just give me some kind of sign. Yeah, so obviously as you learn from those first few projects that you do, you maybe need a little less hand-holding from the director, which is definitely what you will witness in most cases, because you're on an independent film and the director expects more from you, in terms of your experiences, and knows that you can do it. But you still definitely need some sort of like appreciation, and I think that's something that actors kind of have like a need for always, is like, I want to be seen, like you said, I want to be appreciated. And I know we kind of mentioned like the difficulties working on certain sets and with people and different people at that it's difficult to get that appreciation you seek sometimes. But yeah, just like kind of the minimal, like, director, tell me how to do this. Is that good? Okay. Like that.
Yeah, it's
minimum is like what you could ask for, but also like.
Because I'm sure, and that's the weird thing about production too, is sometimes I could imagine, I don't know if you've had this experience, but having the reverse handhold almost, where you're comfortable and the director is kind of fumbling around. You're like, no, like, we got this. This is where I'm going to come from. And then they're like, and you have to almost give them confidence that they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because maybe in their mind everything is crumbling because they lost a location that they're not going to shoot tomorrow. Like, directors have so much going on in their head that they might not even be in the moment on the scene you're about to do. And then, I don't know if you've had moments like that.
So I actually did a feature-length film, and we shot over multiple weeks. So I knew the director well, and he was actually very, very good. But he did have 1 or 2 days where he was just, like, you could tell, overwhelmed and just not all there and where he had to be. And I'm lucky enough that I had already been working on the film and, like, knew what he was looking for and, like, what he wanted out of it. So I was like, okay, I'll come in here. I'll do this. Is that okay? And where he was just like, yeah, good idea. Yeah, let's do it like that. So that is kind of like a little bit more where I had to pick that up. And I think I'm lucky in a sense that I already knew his vision beforehand. I had already worked with him, and I was already like deep into my character, that there wasn't a ton more I needed from him. But I definitely like had more control those couple days where he was just a little off.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good situation to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in a way, that's kind of where I like to have my actors living anyway, is like the open communication of I almost lose a little bit of confidence in actors that I'm working with if they don't already have an idea they're bringing to the table. In a way.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I like to be not super open and flowy, but like I have what I want, but then I also want to know what you have and you want. Because I mean, that's why I cast you in the first place, because I like what you bring to the table. And if I'm just telling you what to do, like, I can have anybody there. Like, I need somebody that is going to give me their stuff.
Yeah.
Be creative.
Yeah. Be creative. Make something cool. Yeah. But I get that, and I appreciate that you, as a director, kind of have that expectation, if you will, of like, I expect my actors to want to be here and want to have been thinking about this before they even come inside my room, whatever. So I've worked with a lot of directors, majority of them, who like that collaborative communication. And then I've worked with one where I've had none. And that was like really difficult for me because I feel like I've had a lot of freedom in the work I've done. And it was just all like, you are doing this, you are doing it this way. Like your facial expression has to be like this. Like very, she had an image in her head of what she wanted, and like there was no soft spots around that, and you had to do it. So that was difficult for me, but I liked the challenge that like I really had to get what she wanted and make sure I still brought my vision of the character to it, but tried to give what she wanted to.
Yeah.
So it was difficult and took a little more time on my end, but it was a cool experience, and like you're gonna work with different people all the time, so I'm sure this won't be the last time I witness something like that.
It sounds like the proper mindset of the taking on the challenge of this director's way of communicating.
Yeah.
However, I like to in my mind, I'm like, okay, this process will work if, like, I try to imagine if my actors, if this actor swapped you out for like, I'll say Natalie Portman or something, you know, and it's like, and then,
much better than Natalie Portman, clearly.
And then that director is trying to do the same thing, and if that direction would work on Natalie Portman, or if Natalie Portman would be like, yo,
what are you doing? Yeah.
It's like, that's maybe, I don't know what those other actors would do in those situations. I feel like it wouldn't go too well.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I joke with friends on occasion too, where I'll be like, I'll imagine myself casting, let's say like a Will Smith in a thing, and it'll be like, all right, this is the one day with Will Smith. Like we're shooting a short with Will Smith today, and then I'll be like, as a director, I'll walk up after a take and I'll be like, do you have any notes for yourself? All right, you're good. All right, cool. Like, I'm not gonna tell you anything because you've been doing this.
You know what you're doing. Like you should. I don't have notes for you. Do you have any for yourself?
Okay. Do that again. Okay, no, you're good. Cool. That was great for me. Because.
That's so funny.
But I mean, ideally, in reality, I dream that those scenarios would still be a back and forth on. They're human too, and I'm sure if they're confident in their director, the open communication and the back and forth discussions will be appreciated.
We'll be there, of course.
But still, I still imagine those where I'm just like,
okay, so you good? I'm good. Good. Great. All right, move on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny.
But okay, so those, all right, acting.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd like to get more of like behind the scenes, like one side of it, business oriented, kind of like we talked about. Either pre-production or post-production, distribution. That's all an interesting space for me, but I've like read up and known a little bit on the production side of things, like directing, and this past feature that I wrapped in Chicago before I came here, we filmed during COVID. So I learned a lot about lighting, makeup, wardrobe, kind of like the nitty-gritty things that I haven't known before. Like I even learned some things about sound from our sound guy on set, but we had such a small crew where that was very accessible to me, and I really enjoyed having the open conversation about those things on a set where most times you don't, because there's so much other work to get done on sets, and there's usually a ton of people on there that you can't really just sit and chat and say, hey, sound guy, what are you doing? Oh, do you need help with anything? Sure. Like, that doesn't happen. So I'd like to learn more about, I know I need to find like a specific area, like you said, because it's really overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Trying to learn everything, but directing's interesting to me, and basics on sound and lighting, and which even like helps me too if I ever wanted to make my own actual short. Like, I know how to set up lighting. I know basics on sound now. That's cool to at least have for me. So I'll be learning, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'm sure for you, it'll be similar to how you moved out here too, where it's like, oh wait, there's an opportunity with so and so to get experience in this space. All right, sweet, I'll check that off my list. Right. That sounds cool. And then see what happens from there.
Yeah. Do you, and we don't have to discuss this too much, but
sure.
Do you have any courses or classes you recommend on filmmaking in general here? That's such a broad question, but like any advice to elementary learning of all things filmmaking?
Advice to elementary filmmaking.
Yeah.
The answer to your first question on classes is no.
Okay.
Because I taught a class in Reno.
Oh.
Which I feel it's a very Reno thing to do.
Okay.
Because there's no film schools or anything.
Right.
Whatever. All right. So I taught basically what you're asking about is I think it was an 8-week course on short film production specifically, and it was awesome. I did it twice. No, 3 times. I did it once for preteens.
Awesome.
And that was like a shortened, kind of more condensed version. But it sounds kind of like what you're looking for is like a little bit of a crash course in handing. Like what I would do is I would hand off the reins. It's kind of okay. It's a weird position because I hate the idea of. It feels weird to have people pay for me to put them to work.
I get that.
It's like, wait, okay, but they're paying for the experience of the guidance and the safe space and the permission to fail and like all that kind of stuff is like that's
acceptable in that space.
So it's similar to the student film whole thing. It's like just which that is most likely volunteer based or minimal pay if any.
Yeah.
Which is similar, but at least you're not paying for the experience.
Right.
Ideally, unless they make you buy your own costume or who knows.
Yeah, which is yeah.
For me, because that's my expertise, which I am cool with, is producing off of zero budget. And just making stuff and experimenting and growing, which is...
No, I was just going to say that's awesome that you do that, and I so admire that because it's not easy.
Yeah, because I directed this short this last weekend that I gave you a heads up on.
Yep.
That has a PI in there.
Yeah.
Came out really good. I
want to see it.
You can maybe get it. I don't know. It's too early to sneak peek. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Maybe next week.
But, all right, my advice for just making stuff, making cool stuff, because that's what I'm trying to do, is just do it.
Eddie, this advice, come on, be creative, make something cool, just do it.
Just do it. I think about... Okay, so... Here's what you need, and this is why I'm able to do what I do, is I think I told you, like, or whatever, this last product, I'm nearing 100 projects that I produced myself. I'm getting close to the century mark on it.
Awesome.
So even yet on this last one, I was getting nerves getting up to the production. And I'm like, this is an easy one day for fun shoot.
Yeah, why am I nervous? I've done this so many times.
But like, I had never worked with those actors before, and I didn't want to let them down.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they were awesome, and I didn't have any fear in them not showing up or them not providing on the day.
Yeah.
It was more just like, I hate having to do the stuff that I don't have confidence in. Mm-hmm. So there's so many elements when you're doing it yourself that even when you're confident in most of them, there's still something.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's costumes.
Okay.
And hair makeup.
I know that too well now.
So sometimes production design too. I'm like, we'll just shoot with a location. Like, I mean, maybe tweak a thing, whatever. But so through my experience of the Reno Film Collective, that was that I made all the shorts through. I was able to early on. I had to do everything early on to just get stuff going. Like I would act.
Yeah.
I would write. Like my girlfriend at the time, she would handle the camera. I think I would even. I don't know how I did sound. Maybe there was like a sound. I don't know how I did sound.
Yeah,
I think I borrowed a boom mic from somebody and had somebody that didn't know how to use a boom mic holding a boom mic. Write, direct, act. Girlfriend would shoot. And then I would edit it and then just put it out there.
Yeah.
And then I'd watch it and I'd be like, that was fun. And it feels very good to get stuff done and follow through with what you say you're going to do. And then as that goes, you're like, okay, sweet. I will maybe show somebody who has more experience than me, which in Reno is hard to find. Even then, I was like, it's hard to get people to just like collaborate and talk and see the stuff. And then somebody would point out like the 180 rule to me. Like I didn't know what the 180 rule was early on. I'm like, this shot looks weird, this cut looks weird, and I don't know why. And somebody would be like,
go 180.
Yeah, it's like you jumped the line on that. I'm like, oh wait, what?
What is that?
Like what's that? So, just do it. Okay. But you have to know either people that know how to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like the edit.
Yeah.
Or I'm always a fan of getting experience on the editing side regardless. So that way, that's the part where people get tripped up the most is even after you've shot the thing, more often than not, for whatever reason, it never gets finished.
Yeah.
And out there.
Because it takes a long time to edit and it takes patience and
it depending on what you're asking for, I don't know. Like I specifically write stuff that doesn't need I don't need VFX. I don't put a lot of weight onto on the little stuff that like you're talking about. Is I don't put a lot of weight on like sound design or I'm just like, all right, as long as the sound levels are good and you can tell what's going on, and maybe I'll throw in a little sound effect here, but I don't put too much.
Okay.
I don't marry myself to my little projects. It's like I don't know. So don't get too attached.
Yeah.
And just get it out there, because if you can control the edit and you can edit it yourself and then maybe hand it off to somebody to make it look better on the color side, or have somebody sound mix it, then that's cool. But even then, sometimes I don't use a sound mixer, and I'm just like, it's good enough.
Yeah. It'll do. People can hear it, so it's
People
great.
can hear it, and it's only 3 minutes long, and it's fun regardless. So, I don't know.
Just do it. And that's like what my group of acting friends in Chicago, our mindset was. My friends had the camera, the lighting, they had all that. So it was fun to collab with them because we would just get together and kind of took some of I worked with them on sketch comedy shows too. So we took some of our sketches and made them into short films. I loved that. And that was definitely a time where, like we said, safe spaces. I could ask them questions because they knew a little bit more than I did. And I'd like to create more on my own, too, while I'm here. So
No, aside of the TikTok space is what you're referring to?
Yeah, aside of TikTok. TikTok's just like, okay, Sunday morning, I'm bored. I'm just going to...
It's a similar thing, though. It's a similar process.
Yeah,
It's just instead of... I don't know how you shoot TikTok, but I imagine...
Depends on the talk.
Is it a vertical? Is it a vertical camera you set up for yourself?
Yeah, which is weird because that's different from everything else you film,
the only difference is you just turn it like this.
Right, but it's like, it would be nice to possibly use some of those TikToks elsewhere, but they're all vertical.
Yeah. TikTok reel.
TikTok reel. Never.
So I hope that kind of answers. I don't know.
Yeah, like, no, that does help. It's just like, do it. Like, you want to do something, do it. Try it. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You'll learn from them. Get something out there. It feels good. Yeah,
because the things to keep in mind, because like I had these like $70 little softbox lights that I had from the like my early beginning days, and I'm like, I just need lights. I don't even know what to buy, but this is cheap. I had those all the way through my feature film that we used on my feature. Wow. So I recently tossed them because in the move I'm like, these
have given me what tiny did in my past.
They did great work for me.
Yeah.
But like there are ways, I don't know, DPs will probably get upset with me saying this, but like on this last short that we shot that isn't out, it'll probably be out by the time this drops. It's called the Oak Milk. Oak Milk.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. Yeah. I'm really excited.
That one has 3 scenes shot exterior.
Okay.
Which is hard to control light exterior anyway.
Of course.
So as long as you keep the scenes short, you can still play with getting lots of coverage and different angles in there. And as long as you shoot it before the lighting changes, you don't have to like light anything as long as the lighting itself looks good if you're in the shade under a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
Or that's probably like the best case scenario. You want the shade. You don't want the harsh light. And you don't want to be dealing with the setting sun because you just lose. It changes so quick. But there's plenty. I mean, we can always talk about more on specificity in there.
Sure.
But
I really want to see Oak Milk. I'm excited to see how it turned out.
Oy.
I'm sure it's awesome.
That's great. Of course. I directed it.
Obviously, it's going to be good.
So, you mentioned wanting to kind of jump back to some previous topics, potentially, that you had some thoughts that drifted away because we moved forward. Was there anything that came to mind before we try something else?
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted, and this is just another more long-term goal for me, is to incorporate some of my languages possibly, or even kind of cultural experiences in my family into film. So I come from a really big Italian family, pretty loud, and majority of them are from Italy, so moved to America either when they were young or more recently, later in life. And I guess one thing I wanted to talk about is just experience of like traveling to Italy and seeing what it's like there.
Yeah.
But also, if you knew of anything like in the international film space that you wanted to talk about or discuss anymore, or any advice you'd have for kind of getting more into an international film space too at some point. I know, the pretty hefty questions. I'm sorry, I'm asking you, but I just like to discuss about international film in general too.
All right, so let's start with your first thing. You did you want to talk about your upbringing with being Italian and all right, so you are very what's the word? There's a lot of okay, so you went to Italy for the first time at what age?
So my grandparents grew up in the small town in Sicily. This is on my mom's side. And they've always had a house there my whole life.
Your grandparents had it.
Yeah. So growing up, my family would visit their houses, and my mom's one of 6, so all of our cousins would go at the same time, and it'd be just kind of like a big family summer.
So it would be pretty frequent. It would be like a yearly kind of thing, or even
usually yearly. Except for this year, sadly, COVID.
Right. I guess I was like, oh, you grew up with a lot of the heritage in the States, and then later on went and experienced Italy, but you kind of had it throughout.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that's
nice.
like what influences, obviously a lot of my TikToks we've talked about, but like even so like influences who I am. Totally, exactly. So, and I definitely do have like a big personality, and I can be a loud talker. And I feel like all those things are kind of rooted back to my heritage.
I feel, not to make this sound like a negative thing, but I get jealous of people like you.
Eddie, come on, man. You're fantastic, okay?
Because I'll just say, like, I think it's awesome. Like, that's a weird thing about life too, is everybody has different paths and different situations that they're born into, or like it's just random luck of the draw stuff.
Yeah.
I wish not to. I don't know. I feel like Mom and Dad, this is not your fault.
It's okay, Mom and Dad. I
feel like there's an element of cultural in influence that kind of upbringing gives, where you have Italy and you have like a sort of family history, like the big family gatherings and stuff. Like my family moved away from New Mexico when I was young, away from most of my family.
Gotcha.
And then we didn't go back often enough. There wasn't really much, like there's a cool New Mexico culture that I really dig, but as far as like a family culture, there's a little bit of a lack of that as far as my personal experience. So when you talk about how awesome it is to have
that awesome, they're a lot too, trust me.
So I think it's it makes me really happy to hear that it's played such a big part in your life, and it really, I mean, as it should, because that's something not to really be taken for granted, I feel. So it's a cool thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Really
no,
sad.
Like I appreciate that too, and it's like so many times I have to remind myself, like, wow, I'm fortunate to have a big support system, family. That being said, a lot of like the cultural old school, if you will, mindsets are very different. So what I mean by this, in me moving here as one example.
To Los Angeles.
Yes, to pursue something that off the bat is not a very financially secure anything. I, graduated 4 years of college. I'm not like earning a full-time salary in acting. I don't have a 401k in acting. All that thing is really frowned upon. And
by who?
My whole family.
The whole family.
A lot of I mean, I don't want to say my whole family, because like
most of the family.
They do like support me and whatever, but they will tell me how they really feel. Like, I love you all. But for example, like my old school aunts and my mom, be like, Los Angeles, what the hell are you going to Los Angeles for? Are you an idiot? You want to ruin your life? You're going to go to Los Angeles? Okay, yeah, have fun in the traffic for 3 hours. You're going to, like, that's what I get, and I will never stop hearing that.
Which is true. It's all true.
It's all true. Really, what am I doing here? That's so
no,
true.
No, not that part. The traffic.
The traffic, sure. But, so it's really nice to have them, because I like having a large, close family, but they are very vocal, and they will always be vocal, and they'll always have an opinion, and they'll always love you, but that does come with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting just like a different, like I appreciate you say, like, don't take that for granted, and I don't, and I appreciate it so much, but there is like a lot more.
There's more opinions because you have more people and a different backgrounds of a bunch of people, and their opinions are rightfully thought.
Of course.
And it's cool to see that you powered through it regardless. Yeah. And I guess on the flip side of my situation with not having it, my parents have always been super supportive of all that. Like I did the college thing too for the engineering field and all that, and never followed through with the work, and they've never really given me too much of a hard time for it, and they see that I enjoy what I'm doing, and that like just the follow through means a lot, and and they're the only people I have to like please, like. Right. Or they even have to listen to, because most of the family has been too disconnected from most of my life anyway to have an opinion that would shake me in any way anyways.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I have less opinions coming at me, which is a plus.
Sorry. But yes, definitely.
All right.
So it's there's definitely pros and cons to both sides of it, I guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
All right. So you have the Italian upbringing that influences you to this day. Yeah. And all right, go from there. Was there something you were gonna continue on? Did we talking about China at all, or was that just?
Yeah, we could talk about China too. Yeah. So I lived in China for a little bit. In college, I had an internship out there. Right. So. Lived there for a few months, and I loved it.
And I know we talked about it a little bit, but if you could recap the coolness of the specific internship and how it combines who you are with also who you are.
Yeah. So the internship itself was awesome. As I mentioned, I also studied languages in school, so I was taking both Italian and Chinese at the time, and my internship was at the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. So everyone in the office spoke both Chinese and Italian.
It's a dream.
Yeah. It was really intimidating, but it was a dream. I have like a quick story of my first day of work there.
Please.
So I get to the office, and my boss she was just like a strong, independent Italian woman. And my first day, I go up to her, and in English, I'm like, "It's so great to meet you. I'm so happy to be here. Can't wait to start. Let's get going. This is going to be wonderful. Thank you again for having me." And she stops me while I'm speaking, and in Italian, she says, "In this office, we only speak Chinese and Italian," and walks away. My jaw dropped to the floor, and I was like, oh my God, I just ruined this whole internship for myself. So that was my first experience ever of like working in an office setting, and like how much it can tear you down. And it was really, really intimidating. But after that, it was an awesome internship, and like I'm so thankful that I did get to work on it now. But funny story from when Giana was 19 in China. Exciting.
Yeah, because that's I don't know what the slap to reality. I don't know what euphemism, metaphor.
Yeah, metaphor.
You could put in for that, but that's a cool.
It's like weird because I was going to say like welcome to corporate America, but we're in China and we only speak Italian, so it's not corporate America.
You could just say welcome to corporate.
Corporate, yeah. Welcome to corporate
life.
I've
never really worked in an office.
Don't do it.
Like I've witnessed.
Stay here forever. Have you seen Billy Madison?
No.
Don't. Oh my God, stay in school. So good. If you guys haven't seen it, Billy Madison, great movie. I recommend corporate America for a lot of professions, obviously, but if you like have a naturally creative mind, it's really difficult to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day doing paperwork.
I feel like it's difficult for more people than more people have creative minds, or at least enough of a creative mind that there's probably, I just imagine anybody kind of gets some sort of itch and they don't even know what it is, but it's that the creative unfulfilledness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I could see that for sure.
So.
And there's pros and cons to corporate America too. Like, there's awesome jobs. I have a ton of friends that love their jobs, but my experiences have also been fine. But now I just have a passion elsewhere. So
are the friends that like the jobs, are they non-creative folk?
Okay, so a couple of my friends, like one of my friends works for Google.
Lame. I'm just kidding. That's super cool.
It's an awesome job. Well, how she describes it. But she loves her job, loves it so much. That being said, it is like a desk job, essentially. She does, marketing, advertising, sales, kind of does all that.
It's like hyper corporate.
Right. But Google is such an obviously large corporation where they've incorporated so much like creativeness into the office itself, and they have a lot of flexibility and they get a lot of benefits. So it's not like typical corporate America.
It's kind of like the creative Pixar kind
of
space. Where
like they have like a dog park in their office. Like what? I want that for like my apartment building. I don't even have a dog, but like I'd love that.
It's like, can I just live here?
Yeah. Yeah. So like she loves her job. And I have other people too who just like enjoy the work that they do. So I have one friend who's in HR and she just loves it. She answers questions, she hires people, and she enjoys the people she works with, which is another really, really good, I feel like, strong part that you need in corporate America is to have people you get along with in an office. I found that
because you're stuck with them.
Yeah, all day. Like, you see those people more than you see your family, sometimes significant others. Like, it's just life. Yeah.
Okay, so what? We didn't chat too much about China last time or yet today. Yeah. But do you have any stories from China? Because I've had some friends. Like I have a buddy from Reno that he's like a creative. He handles their promotional videos and stuff, and they hire out of Reno for some reason for that.
Cool.
But he does like I think it's like kitchenware and stuff. So he'll like get shots of like stoves and or whatever.
Awesome.
So they fly out to China a lot to kind of talk with corporate there, and he'll do work at their studio for a bit to shoot stuff. And he talks about how cool it is there and whatnot. But I've never been, and I don't know even like anything.
Yeah, no, and I didn't either, and I really had no idea what to expect when I got there even. But
where in China?
I was in Shanghai, but we did a little traveling. We went to Guangzhou, went to Beijing, but my apartment was in Shanghai. First of all, I know there's like a lot of stereotypes of what people think.
And how do you pronounce it?
Shanghai.
Not Shanghai?
Yeah, it's Shanghai.
Is it Shanghai?
It is. Yeah.
Good to know, Shanghai.
Yeah, Shanghai.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's a good question. Shanghai. But it was super clean. Like, there were always people on the side of the streets, like, cleaning. And that's even, like, a funny story in itself. Like, everything is so different from America. Like, the streets look different, and the food is unbelievably different. It's not even like our Chinese food we have in America.
Sure.
So different. But I just remember, like, the cultural aspect obviously is huge. But watching, like, the man in the street kind of sweep the trash away his broom was made of like tree branches. And that's just something that like I feel like you don't see in America, you know, like they use the resources they have to clean the streets. Like such a small example of just like how different our cultures are. And like the biggest things that were more or less like a culture shock for me was like transportation in Shanghai versus Chicago. Chicago transit, widely used. Like if you live in the city and work in the city, you're going to take the L, you're going to take the Metro, like the bus schedule is really good. Like transportation is very known and used there. So I was already super used to it from Chicago, but using it in Shanghai was like so much to learn and so different. And just like obviously there's a large population and you know that going into this, but the amounts of people that are packed into these small car trains are wild. And like that was just like something I see, and cultural things that you pick up on over time where like Americans would see as disrespectful or rude is totally the opposite, and it's respectful in China. So one example I have of taking the train, a lot of times a car will look like it's full, but people who are getting on behind you will help push you in, like literally will physically push your back. I kid you not. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, why are you touching me? Because that's like the American reaction we have. But they do it as like a sign of respect, like I'm helping push you in so one more person can fit behind you. And then you literally turn around and say thank you to that person who just pushed you. Like such a culture shock, and like this is how it is here and it's okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I could show you a video later of just like the vast amounts of people on the train, you know?
Because I'm trying to imagine from almost like a character perspective.
Yeah.
As the person pushing somebody into a train. I'm like, how?
Like you don't.
No. I'm
really intensely.
I'm trying to imagine putting myself in the shoes of that person and thinking I'm doing a good thing. Like it's a weird
We're just
weird
so
comprehension.
Not used to it. And at first I was literally like, oh my God, stop touching me. What's happening?
And then you're like, thank you.
Yeah, and I was like, thank you so much. We really appreciate it now.
Okay.
Things you just have to learn. And that, I mean, I learn things like that every single day. Yeah. Like, it's also very okay and common just to, like, stare at people, which is something in America we've taught our children and
not polite,
grow up learning that you don't point your finger, you don't stare at people, you know, you go about your days, but they will stare. And it's fine. It's, like, not disrespectful, not rude. It's just part of culture. And, like, it's interesting, too, because when I first got there, my first 2 weeks was immersion in language, but also cultural changes. So that's where I learned a lot of this, too. And on the business side of things, like one thing they actually taught us in our course was how to have professional business exchanges with, like, your boss in China. And one thing they said that's really disrespectful is if your boss offers you a shot of alcohol, a drink, anything, you accept it and you drink it and you do it with them. If you don't, it's very disrespectful. And that's something you just, like, would never hear in America, you know? Like, and that was one of the first things they taught us is, like, your manager will take you on. You'll most likely go out to a dinner. You need to do a shot with them. And it's almost like, good luck. Like,
yeah, I could see it. Like, ideally, those situations are forms of respect.
Exactly.
Even in America, that's the hope. That's like the benefit of the doubt. It's like, oh, I'm off. Like, this is a thank you for, like, welcome on.
Right.
Let's do this. Cheers. Like that kind of thing. But of course, power and dynamics and stuff is different potentially. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Just so many.
Did you have an opportunity? Did you get offered shots and stuff?
So
you're like, all right, I gotta do this.
When they told me that, I was expecting it, but since our director, like the boss of my Italian Chamber of Commerce, she was Italian, we didn't do that. Because then I had like 2 different cultures in there, and I had to kind of adjust to the Italian culture and the Chinese culture in our office.
That's super cool.
Yeah. It was really
different.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then I got to go to like a big gala that we were all invited to, and I had helped plan. I felt super cool.
How did you handle the I guess the lack of diversity in the country shock? Like how did that feel? Just walking about the world, and it not being America, like what was that like? Did it feel like anything, or was it?
I mean, it's interesting.
So I'm not sure how it is in Italy, like in comparison to America, like the 3 sections, but
like. I feel like it's not a huge shock on my part because in America, you see so much diversity. Like, we're used to seeing all different cultures all the time, especially when you live in a big city. Like, I was in Chicago. I was fulfilled with everyone and everything. So for me, like, it was more simple, I guess, for me to be in that environment. On the reverse side, and, like, after having conversations with natives I met there, it seemed to be more strange for them to come encounter with me, because they didn't know much about America, and what they did know was like from their
movies
government websites or from what they could find online. So some of it might have been censored or whatnot. So I felt like that was a bigger culture, I don't want to say shock, but like a bigger transition or something to learn on their end more so than
But
mine.
I guess just to clarify too, it wasn't, it wasn't diverse there, or it was more diverse than expected?
No, it was not diverse at all. At all. I stood out of the crowd. Okay. Yeah. Which is difficult to say because I'm only 4'11". I don't stand out of the crowd very often. I'm very short.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone was...
Yeah, Chinese.
Yeah, of course. And that being said, though, too, the internship program I was on, we stayed with other international students. So the apartment building I was in was not Chinese natives. It was all international students. But then we'd go out into the day, and everyone had their own internships and would work all day.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely best of
That's cool.
both worlds.
I think it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, really. And I'd love to go back. I would love to go back. You haven't ever been, right?
No, I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but the only place I've been outside of the North American continent is Indonesia, and that was for a month. And that's the biggest thing that I took away was the Indonesian population over, like there was there's no diversity, and I stood out, like because I'm average height in America, but Indonesia I'm like super tall, and like actually like kind of built for like comparative to the local folk.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Something you're not used to, and you're like, whoa.
It's like, whoa. It's different.
I'm on top of the world.
Like, yeah. Be a star here. All the eyes on me.
Love that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you wanted to. All right. So being that you have these experiences, and being that you want to go back, I guess what do you want to go back to do, or like what's pulling you back there? Because it can't be the internship because you already did that.
No, been there, done that, loved it. I would go back.
Shanghai.
Honestly, for the food.
To the same city, or do you want to explore more?
I would like to explore more. But I loved Shanghai. Like I would totally go back just as a vacation. I don't know if I'd live there again, just like
Yeah.
time in my life, what I want to do right now, I don't think I need to, but I'd love to visit again just to kind of see everything and live it.
What was the dish of choice? You mentioned the food.
The dumplings were unbelievable. Also, just like, I ate something new like every day. It was incredible. Like, I would go off on my lunch during work, and there were these little, like, there's this restaurant across the street with, like, little boxes of food, and you would get rice, and you would get a hard-boiled egg, but it was, like, perfectly cooked every time. And just, like, a little seaweed, and it was just a meat of your choice. Like, such a cool, interesting, delicious lunch that was extremely affordable, and I would never be able to find something like that here. And it's weird how that happens, but dumplings, like street food dumplings, holy guacamole, they are to die for. Like, to die for. I also had a breakfast where, street food breakfast, where the man on the street would almost make, like, a crepe, but filled with, like, egg, chives, like a little unsweetened donut, red bean paste, all different flavors we don't use here, and it was out of this world. So good. And it was like 13 cents. Every morning for that. So
crazy.
Good. So just very cool.
Sounds good. Because
Go ahead. You say you want to say first.
I think about in Indonesia, I loved the ramen that they had there. It feels so simplistic, kind of like how you described the little rice and the boiled egg, and how it's just
so simple.
Somehow really
worked.
Good.
Yeah.
No, it was the same with the ramen, because I started out experimenting. Like, I think maybe the first week, I was like, all right, I'm just going to, like, dive in, and I don't want to, like, not say I didn't try this and try this and try this.
Yeah.
But I did kind of get back into, like, I'm just going to stick with, like, chicken and ramen, because I'm not a big fan of, like, the fish, like, just squid and the slimy stuff, and, like,
the slimy stuff.
The gooey, chewy drinks, and, like,
that's fair.
Like, just the texture.
Yep. That's understandable.
But I gave it a shot, and then I ended up just like being, man, ramen is great. I'm just going to stick with this anywhere that I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds similar in a way.
Have you been able to find a ramen somewhat equivalent, or no?
It's never.
Yeah.
I've tried ramen. Like, I want to eat at more ramen places in hopes of finding it. But it's like the ramen that they had in Indonesia that I liked was kind of more of the dry ramen, with like kind of the egg mixed in and like that kind of stuff, and very simple with maybe some sort of sauce or like whatever. But a lot of ramen places here, kind of the default ramens are in the soup bowls, and I'm like, but I want the dry ramen, and then it's I don't know, I just haven't looked hard enough.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, I'm not going to find it.
You're it's not going to happen, so why are you going to try?
Exactly.
You can't get that.
Just got to go back. That's kind of how I used to.
Yeah, it's just to go back and experience it a little bit. Once again, another visit.
Yeah, maybe a few more times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or once. Maybe just need one more, and then you can kind of go from there and try other countries.
Yeah. Even like the difference in street food from Shanghai to Beijing was really different. So I was only in Beijing for a weekend. Not very long. I didn't get a ton of exposure, but I was like, whoa, everything they sell on the street here is different, or not totally made the same as they do in Shanghai. Like, Shanghai has Shanghai-specific dumplings that almost have, like, soup in them.
Okay.
And Beijing has, like, another type of dumpling. So just, like, regional differences are interesting, too.
It's too much.
And their dialects are very different. Like Shanghainese versus Beijing dialect. I can't even speak on that because it sounds so different to me.
So you focused on Shanghai.
I focused on Mandarin Chinese, just like the overall.
You weren't getting into dialects.
No, I could not at all. Like, I can't even tell you something in Shanghainese. It was just over my head.
Sure. So now you're kind of so you have some sort of seed planted in your brain from those experiences that you wanna see if you can kind of intertwine into the actor / film sphere in some way. Is kind of what you're bringing up, which makes sense because you would want to lean into what makes you you and what helps you stand out and be creative. So I don't. Yeah.
I know, and I'm still like trying to figure out on my end like how I make that possible, or like what direction I even want to go in to start something like that. Like I've thought about like, you know, American Girl in China situation, just doing like a short about that, but I don't know how, and I don't even know if that's like the route I want to take, like I said. So it's just still sitting on it. But in terms of like my Italian American background, I grew up watching, you know, all Scorsese movies and just like Italian American, somewhat like mafiosa, Godfather, like watched all those, loved all those. Whether I like worked in a TV series or another like Italian American historic film, like based on real events kind of thing, I would love to bring that to life. I'd love to be a part of something like that in the future. Or even create something on my own. So
it definitely sounds like something to me that you definitely want to just keep in the back of your mind, regardless of what direction you decide to go right now.
Right.
Because it sounds like there's always something in the back of our creative brains on like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then as soon as an opportunity comes up that favors that other thing, I'm going to pounce on it because I know it's there. And just keeping that energy going out that you want it is the tough unknowingness of the world, right? That we...
Yeah, and everyone experiences. That is true, huh?
Yeah. But it's all we can do.
Just plan for future.
Cool. I mean, look at my other topics.
Yeah.
Ooh, dang, we're like at the end. Yeah. All right, cool. So we can do a thing. This is... let's just try closing off. I don't know. This is
Does your cat say talker, by the way?
Yeah.
Cute.
You like it?
Yeah, that should be like your podcast hat.
No. Talker.
It's fun.
This is a shout out to. I didn't think you'd bring it up. But
sorry.
No. For those that are watching the video, this Talker orange hat is in support of a indie artist who is called Talker, and this is her merch.
Love it. So super cute. Great merch,
and
girl.
It always helps me stand out on set because it's just like super bright.
I love it.
And
you're like the talker. Let's go, everyone.
It has multiple meanings. So I'm pretty quiet on set. Like I just chill and observe. So then my hat says Talker, and it's kind of funny.
I'm just like, Eddie, I haven't heard you say a word. Nice
so
hat.
Let's try some rapid fires.
Okay,
and then end with that.
Okay.
I figure, I'll just ask you questions.
Okay.
These are gonna be hard rapid fires.
Oh God.
I'll throw you a tough one to start.
Okay.
What is your favorite joke?
Oh my God, Eddie, you don't want to hear my favorite joke. It's so dumb.
All right, let's hear it. I like dumb jokes.
It's really long.
Okay, let's hear it.
I can't say it.
So you have one though. Okay, all right.
No, wait, I have a funny story about my favorite joke.
Okay.
So a couple weeks before I moved here, I was at a lake house with my friends, and we all were talking about like bad jokes. And my one friend was like, "Oh my God, guys, Giana has the worst joke, but it's like her favorite joke, and she's the only person who ever laughs at it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I told my whole friend group the joke, and everyone was like, oh my God, Giana, when you move to LA, please never tell anyone that joke.
Oh no.
I'll save the joke and the pain for a later conversation with
What kind of pain does it bring up? Like, I'm very curious.
Nothing. It's just so dumb. It's like the biggest dad joke, awful, long, and yeah.
It's just drawn out and just
really,
kind of
really
falls
bad.
off a cliff, and you're just like.
You're like, that's it?
We just wasted my time, and yeah, no, I dig it.
Later. But that's the joke. That's like the little preface of Giana. Do not tell this joke, and I'm going to stick to that rule. I will not say my worst joke ever. I'm so sorry to the audience listening.
That's great. Rapid fire number 2.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite beverage?
Interesting. Wow, I don't think I've ever had that question.
That's
okay.
An interesting
least favorite beverage.
So you sip it and you're like,
icky. Prune juice?
You do the spit take after it too.
Yeah.
Right?
Prune juice?
Prune?
I like eating prunes, but they're not like my favorite food. I just have no roots. Yeah, prune juice.
Morning, noon, or night?
Night.
Okay. What did you eat for breakfast? Oh no, I already know that answer.
I had a granola bar here,
and
it was so good.
Favorite color?
Oh, pink, but like a light pastel pink.
Pink, but like a Easter pastelish.
Exactly.
This question here on this website, number 167, is Wi-Fi?
Yes.
I'm like, what? They're really doing the rapid fires here. Let me do a couple more. Okay. I don't like leaning negative, but what chore do you hate doing?
What chore do I hate doing? Mm-hmm. Cleaning the toilet.
Ooh, toilet cleaning?
Yeah, like, no.
Like,
obviously you do it, but like, who wants to do that? Who enjoys cleaning a toilet?
I don't know. Not.
Ew.
Yeah.
Icky.
What is the? Oh wait, are you? No. Let me. I'm scrolling through the list. If you could be any animal, what would it be and why?
A monkey, so I can jump around in the trees.
You like tree climbing, or like the idea of tree climbing?
The idea of like having arms that are long enough to take me from one location to another. I can't do that right now, so I think that'd be cool.
So why the monkey and not like a bird of some kind? Because that could be a little bit simpler.
That's interesting. I think I have no idea. Monkeys are like my favorite animal in general. I think they're like cute and cuddly, and they're like humans in the sense that they have affection for one another. Yeah, I guess I haven't given it like a ton of thought on what animal I'd be like.
No, that was rapid
Maybe
fire.
I'd dig even deeper and be like a giraffe because I'm the shortest person ever, then I could be tall. Like, so many benefits, I'll swear.
Of the long neck.
Okay, my rapid fire choice, monkey.
Was monkey. All right, and then we'll end with a classic interview question that I always struggled with.
Oh, God.
And this is a little bit more broad than the interview question variation, but describe yourself in 3 words. I would say 3 adjectives, but 3 words is what this thing says.
Okay. I would say outgoing.
Okay.
Curious. And quirky. Big time.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Good answers.
Thanks.
I will tell a quick story myself.
Okay.
About me being scarred-ish. I'm overhyping it. I when I was young, before I had my first job, I believe, I was interviewing for the local water park to just work in like the arcade or something.
Sure.
And they had like a whole interview day, and you had to like stand in the line and then get asked by a person at a desk some questions, and I pretty much answered them all wrong. But I think one of them was the adjective one, and I hated it. And then the big question that I feel like made me not get the job, whenever I've actually had like a one-on-one interview I don't think I've ever gotten a job from like a standard interview process.
Yeah, it's hard.
But they asked how I feel about working with kids, or how I feel about kids.
Okay.
Because arcades, like, you know, there's a lot of little kids around.
Of course.
And I'd be like 16 or 17 working there anyway, but that was the question. And I didn't hide my dislike of...
Oh, Eddie. I hate kids.
I'm like, well, they want the honesty. So my honest answer was, I find them tolerable.
Okay.
I can tolerate kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you want an employee to be able to do.
Of course.
You don't want them to like being around the kids. You just want them to tolerate them and whatever. I guess if they enjoyed their job, that'd be a bonus.
Of course.
But
they didn't love that.
That was not a good answer.
That was not the answer they were looking for, maybe, in the ideal candidate.
But
I'm sorry, little 16-year-old Eddie wasn't able to get the arcade job.
It's for the best.
It's for the best, since you probably would have, like, gone crazy with a bunch of kids running around when you just think they're tolerable. So.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, that's a classic, like, entry job is like, oh, you know, you work as a lifeguard, or you do the standard thing, but I didn't get to do that. It's okay. Darn.
You know what? If you want to work at an arcade now, you go out there and apply, and you'll get it.
The dream job that I would go back and get, actually I wouldn't, is the movie theater job was always a dream. Because I like the idea of just like early access.
Like a ticketer and yeah.
Yeah, but they don't get treated very well, I heard.
Yeah, but that would be cool though, to be like, new release just came out, and you're there at the movie theater day of.
Yeah, I'm like there the day before, seeing the screener. Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
But yeah, I guess, unless, all right, so, I don't know, we're at the end. Mm-hmm. I do want to give you a chance to say anything that was left unsaid.
Okay.
Or if you wanted to, okay, I don't know what you want to do. Because I've asked certain questions on like, how you want to see the world improve or anything, but...
Oh God, that's a thick question. I don't know. Do we have like another 3 hours? How do I want to see the world improve?
A nice little simple answer, but...
Do I have to answer that one?
No, don't answer that one. That's too big. That's a whole other half hour.
Great. I guess last kind of words I'd say, I don't think there's anything else that I missed that I'd want to point out in particular, but... thank you guys all for watching, and a huge thank you, huge shout out to Eddie for having me here today. I'm so grateful. This was too much fun, and I'm excited to see all your other episodes too. So
sweet.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you can find Giana on Instagram, as mentioned, at Giana Carli with an I. Yes, same tag on TikTok. You know, check out her... her crazy self there. But yeah.